Tell me about your involvement.
Well, Jillian, I am the director of the entrepreneurship program here at Kellogg School of Management, and I'm also the director of the entire program here for the NBA.
How did this start?
Well, this whole thing came about probably 4 years ago would be the genesis of it all when the National Football League began a program with Kellogg, Harvard, Wharton, and Stanford. And I think a year after that, I remember talking to Antonio Davis. He's at the time was playing for the Chicago Bulls, and I talked to him about the possibilities of a program being started for the NBA. And so they came to Kellogg, and unfortunately, they made the decision to take their first program 2 years ago to Stanford. I was livid. I couldn't believe that they did not select Kellogg, but that's all right. They've come back to the right place now. So it started several years ago with that history.
Have you always imagined something like this should happen or would happen with players?
You know, that's a great question. I always envision that players, as well as other people in other industries, should have this type of educational opportunity. Players, because they have a huge amount of money at such early ages in their lives, but I also envision that this would be something that would be good for example, those in the religion community, that they also need to learn the fundamentals of business.
This is a course that grew out of a lot of the work that I do here at Kellogg, and we teach a course on branding here at Kellogg. And then a couple years ago, we wrote a book called Kellogg on Branding, which is all more in the topic. And then what happened is a couple years ago, we started doing a program with the NFL and a number of NFL players. And then that's now in its second or third year. And now this is the first year for the NBA program. And so we've started doing the session on branding for them as well. Branding is so important when you think about building a business or even building their personal brands. That then they said, you know, how do we cover that topic as well in the course of this program? And then we sort of worked to fashion and to put together the module for the program.
Do you think branding specifically, because it's more of a personal thing, gets guys their attention, catches their attention a little bit more?
Oh, I think it's immediately applicable. And I think that's my hope for the program, is to really get all the players thinking about themselves as brands and really thinking about how do they build a good brand and how do they day in and day out make sure that what they do and how they act and the way they portray themselves is very consistent with the brand they want to build. Because they have a wonderful opportunity to build a really strong brand. And I think it's so important for them to do that. But unless you think about it, you don't necessarily do that. And that's why it's important to really get them thinking about that topic.
What's the difference? Can you explain a little bit teaching athletes compared to the average students? Is there a difference at all?
Oh, there's certainly a difference. You know, every group we work with has slight differences in terms of the audience. But no, it's really quite different with players than with, you know, sort of our full-time students. And the difference really is that for a lot of our students, the primary thing they're doing is their students and their learning. And for players, you know, the difference is, you know, their primary focus is on the game and the work they're doing as players. So the challenge for them is, I think, how do you make it relevant and how do you make it impactful so that in a pretty short period of time you can leave them something to think about and take away with. And what's nice is, ideally, you know, you can see them actually put some of this stuff into play right away. And that's terrific when you see that happen.
Can anyone be a part of this?
Well, the program is limited to the players in the NBA as well as the retirees. And this is kind of unique in that the NBA program from the NFL is that a couple of them have also brought their wives along. So in that sense, it's a much broader program. So can anybody? Well, they have to be associated with the league.
Now, don't take this question the wrong way, but because of the NBA age minimum rule and now only having to go to school for a year, does that play any effect into some of these guys?
I think that's a great question. Thus far, all of the attendees that we have at least attended 1 year of college. When we spoke to the NBA, we actually spoke about possibly having two tracks. One for those who have attended 2 or more years of college and then gone on into the league, and then maybe creating something different for those who came directly out of high school into the league or 1 year in college into the league, because their knowledge of business is much more limited as a result of just being a teenager coming into the league versus being an adult, a man coming into the league. So thus far, everyone who has attended has been in college, so we haven't had to change anything.